What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 66 of the Halving Report podcast with myself, your host, Brad Mines. The price of Bitcoin is just over $20,000 US at the time of this recording on July 4th, 2022. I know a good portion of my listeners are Americans, so I just want to give a happy Independence Day to all of you. There are about 680 days left until the next Bitcoin halving. Many indicators are showing that this may be the best time to enter Bitcoin if you haven't already. The rest of us plebs keep doing what we do best, stacking stats and hodling. And today's guest, I think, knows a little bit about that. His name is Shaun Somers. He's a local to me, and I enjoy meeting people in the area who love Bitcoin just as much as I do. So let's get right to it. Shaun, welcome to the Halving Report. This is episode 66. Thanks for doing this today, man.
Awesome. Thanks. Happy to be here.
Cool, man. So it's rare that I have other people in this area from Niagara Region on the show. So whenever I meet or come across people in the area, I like to get you on and as soon as I can and talk to you and grow our community a little bit. But maybe before we dive into all things Bitcoin, do you mind giving us a background for yourself and just for my listeners who may not know who you are?
Sure. Well, my name is Shaun Somers. I am here in the Niagara region. I'm relatively new to the Bitcoin field, Bitcoin zone, I guess. About 2020, got started. I grew up, born and raised in this area. Went away for school, but came back, raised my family here. And I work as a youth worker at a local detention center. Mm-hmm. And found Bitcoin, and I'm all about it.
That's awesome, man. I think we actually have some mutual friends.
Yes, we do. We absolutely do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I heard your name through. I work at Canada Post here in the Falls, and one of my carriers. I'm well known in the building to be a big Bitcoin guy, so everybody knows. So Carrie Somerville. No,
the name is a little bit familiar, right? But I don't know her.
That's
personally. I don't think.
Yeah. I think her husband knows you.
Nice.
And then Jason, my buddy Jason Francis, my buddy's brother Ray works at the youth center there. So yeah, we definitely got some connections. How did you come across Bitcoin?
Well, so for me, it was something I actually came across initially some time ago. So I've been relatively into Austrian economics and libertarianism for some time. So libertarianism since I was like a teenager, 1920. I was a big Ron Paul fan back in 2008 when he was running. Mm-hmm. And I probably came across Bitcoin at first in maybe 2013, 2014. But really, I kind of thought, well, this is some kind of nerd internet money. It's just something that people on the internet do. And it's not for me, which it wasn't at the time, I guess. Then in 2017, a friend of mine actually that I work with, we were right near the peak of the 2017 peak, and she asked me, should I get into Bitcoin? Like, this looks like it's the real thing. And I said, no, this is going to be a bubble. It's going to pop and it's going to go away, right? You shouldn't put money in this. And it looked like I was right at the time. A little while ago, I actually sent her a message, said, sorry about that. Bitcoin's like $60,000. I said, sorry, I was wrong. You should definitely buy Bitcoin now. And I'm not sure if she ever did. So it took me those couple of times to eventually come across Bitcoin again. Actually, at work, somebody had a copy of the book Digital Gold by Nathaniel Popper, and I was able to just read that, and something clicked. So that combined with my with understanding economics maybe a little better after those years, and also just sort of what I'd seen happening in the world at the time. We're in the lockdown phase of the pandemic. I'm like, this Bitcoin seems like it's pretty important, both as freedom money and as something that's going to keep going up in value.
Yeah, absolutely. Similarly, I was a Ron Paul fan, but not in 2008. I was too young. I wasn't paying attention to politics much back then. But in 2012, I was a big fan. And then I went into the libertarian communities, and I came across Bitcoin, but I had $0 to my name and then forgot about it. And then 2017 comes along and all this turmoil is going on. And next thing you know, I see Bitcoin in the news again. And then I got a buddy from Vancouver who's all into the shit coins. And then, I kind of grooved my way through that, and eventually, pretty big into, like, in terms of allocation, Bitcoin. Does this bear market got you sweating?
Sweating, no. I don't know. Obviously, I'd rather the price be higher, but I'm not concerned it's going to go anywhere. And I had no intentions of selling anyway, right? So I'm all in terms of mainly my allocation is I'm pretty heavy in on Bitcoin. Don't have as much as I'd like, but the lower prices are actually pretty helpful with that. Just stack a little bit more every day or every week. And I always tell people, you're buying this for at least 4 years, right? So, the fact that I got in near, my first Bitcoin purchase was at 15,000. So I'm still up on that $25 purchase. Sadly, a lot of my purchases were significantly more than 15,000, but I'm in for the long term. So not worried right now.
I can definitely resonate with you there. Now on your Twitter profile, you promoting Iron Bank and the infinity banking concept. I wonder if you could touch upon that a little bit for us.
Sure. Yeah. The infinite banking concept, that was actually sort of that got me into Bitcoin in a way, right? So in early 2020, I had always used Twitter as a way to get fantasy football information quick.
Yep.
And, but during the lockdowns again, I probably found myself on Twitter a little bit more, kind of found my way onto money Twitter. And through that, I actually came across the infinite banking concept, which is maybe a little hard to explain real quick, but basically it's the idea of using your life insurance policy as a way to finance the way you live, right? Because every time you're spending money, you're really financing whatever you're buying, because you could be investing it or you could be paying off debt. So it really has to do with properly structured dividend paying whole life insurance. And I found that through kind of money Twitter, and then some people on what you would call money Twitter, were in about Bitcoin. Eventually I saw, I think Russell Okung tweet, "Pay me in Bitcoin." And that also, along with the books I was reading at the time, kind of got me down the path. But I really think for people who have no interest in cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, of course, the infinite banking concept is a good way to handle your fiat dollars. And I think it works perfectly in conjunction with Bitcoin. Because it allows you to take out loans if you want to use loans to buy Bitcoin, that you're not going to have to repay, or you're not going to get a margin call. You can you're the banker. I think the concept of becoming your own banker works really, really well with Bitcoin. I don't like to do business with banks because, as we see in Canada, you can't always trust them not to freeze your accounts. But in general, they contribute to a lot of the problems with like inflation and some of the things that we're seeing is wrong with our economy. So with IBC and Bitcoin together works great.
Yeah, absolutely. Am I frozen to you? My screen looks a little frozen here on my.
Yes, you do appear to be frozen, though I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Yeah, and like that kind of goes in line with what your tagline, separate the money and state. What does that look like to you? Full separation of money and the state, and how important is that?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important. The idea of taking the control of the money out of the hands of the government. So I mentioned before being into libertarianism from a young age, and I did actually run for the Libertarian Party of Ontario in the 2018 election. Did not win, so you got Doug Ford back then, and you got Doug Ford now. But so I was really into being a libertarian, and I kind of identified like that. Now I'd say I've gone a little further. I would suggest that we want basically no government. I would describe myself as an anarchist. And the government being in control of the money, they are going to print money to solve their problems, to spend more than they should. Every government in history has done that, and every fiat currency has failed. Sometimes it takes hundreds of years. Some of the current fiat currencies are in the process of dying, but other times it's much quicker. And you see countries have to end in hyperinflation or reprint out all new currency. As long as the state, as the government's in control of the money printer, freedom is I would say in jeopardy, right? And these days they're looking at making things even more government controlled. So many countries have discussed a central bank digital currency. I think China actually has something of that sort already in place, basically where they have full control over not only how much money you get, but when you can spend it, where you can spend it, and can they turn it off, for example, if your social credit score is too low. So all those things, too much power towards government is never good. I would say any power if government's bad, but that's far too much. And we need money to be set free from government.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with some of what you think. I don't lean as right as you on a lot of things, but I find a lot of people in Bitcoin are in line with, how you think.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ever critical of big corporations? And like, I find like a lot of people on the right, it's all the government's fault, but then the left says, big corporations are also price gouging in this inflationary environment and is making record profits as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, so a couple of things there. First of all, I wouldn't say that being an anarchist is necessarily on the right. Although many of my positions do line up with people on the right? But I'm also fully in favor of things like drug legalization, which are traditionally a left policy, and some other things as well. But in terms of corporation, well, first of all, the corporation itself is a creation of the state, right? The idea of something being a corporation that is enforced by state law, right? Otherwise, it's just people doing business. So yeah, there definitely is a problem. The problem is where big corporations and the state get combined together, right? And that's essentially we would traditionally call that fascism, where they are working hand in hand to promote, whether it's an agenda or they're using the power of the state to monopolize a certain industry. I don't think price gouging is a thing. I don't think there's any such thing as price gouging. There's just the price. Price is an important signal, and so I would say I don't see a problem with where people set prices. I definitely also see that corporations are making big profits right now, and that a lot of that again is because the market's distorted based on what the government has done to our money. Right? They printed an insane amount of dollars in early 2020, handed it out essentially no questions asked to people, $2,000 a month here in Canada, and that's distorted everything. So prices for things like oil are way up, or gasoline, and all kinds of other things as well. And again, it all comes back to that monetary policy.
So would you consider yourself a Bitcoin maximalist?
100%. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noted, I listened to a bunch of your podcasts as well. I've listened to it in the past too. And you had a Bitcoin maximalist the other day. Mm-hmm. I'm probably I'm as Bitcoin maximalist as anyone else you've spoken to, if not more so, is what I would say. Yeah, I'm 100% Bitcoin.
Okay.
I've actually never purchased or owned any other type of coin, which is actually a close call. I definitely was going to start with a balanced portfolio. I thought that was the way to go. Yeah. But in listening to some podcasts, I kind of got saved from that. So never once have I touched any of the shit coins.
Oh, good for you. Not a lot of people can say that. I definitely dabbled into, I was in the ICO phase and boom of 2017. Definitely different times back then. Yeah. So are you a complete purist then in terms of not your keys, not your coins, or do you subscribe to some of the lending platforms such as BlockFi, Celsius, or Lendin, I think it's called?
Lendin, yeah. I definitely did. Luckily, I never was anywhere near Celsius. These days, you can see that was a good dodge there. Mm-hmm. I did at one point have I put some Bitcoin, maybe $1,000 of Bitcoin onto BlockFi, thinking, well, you know what, this is only a little bit. It's not a big deal. Somebody on Bitcoin Twitter, this is months and months ago, maybe even a year ago, was like, get your coins off BlockFi. And so I did. I don't know. I'm like, you know what? And this is what people say, and I think it's pretty smart, is why are you putting 100% of your Bitcoin at risk for 6, 7, 8% yield? If it's not your keys, it's not your coins. They can freeze your bank account just as easily as anybody else. They could go bankrupt maybe more easily than many companies. So I took my money off of BlockFi, although whatever interest I was getting did get paid out after that. So I think I had 71 cents worth left on BlockFi. Now it's probably only 30 cents. So I'm just gonna let that ride, see how that goes.
Yeah. Again, some pretty similar boat there. I never put 100%, but I did end up dabbling. I held off for so long before using BlockFi, but I'm like, Peter McCormick, Pomp, all these guys that are pretty
100% where Peter McCormick is as an advertiser. Yeah. I'm like, well, BlockFi, it sounds okay.
Yeah.
Can't be that bad.
Yeah, and when you see other people in the community that have been around longer than we stand on their shoulders and we kind of trust them a little bit. But definitely not putting 100% of your. I didn't go anywhere near 100%. Like I said, I lost enough in that 2017, 2018 craze to be super fiscally conservative with my Bitcoin and crypto. So you don't see like some of these NFTs, like digital art or maybe gaming collectibles having value, or is just like not philosophically where you want to put your money?
It's I'm not gonna say they wouldn't have value. Like long time ago, so I'm a kid, right? I was into like hockey cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand the concept of a signed hockey card being more valuable than another hockey card. And back then there was a pretty big bubble in baseball cards, hockey cards. I think prices got crazy and then they crashed down. It's the same kind of an idea. Like a signed rare hockey card is always going to have some kind of value. Do I think that you should be using it as an investment in any way? I don't think so. I think you should stay well clear of the idea of an NFT, unless it's just something where it's, if it's something that's cool, like NFTs started on Bitcoin, it can be done on the Bitcoin blockchain. I have no problem if someone wants to have a special piece of artwork that you can say, I supported the artist by buying number 1 of 200 and it's an NFT. I guess that's fine. And I just wouldn't expect to ever be able to sell it for more than I bought it for. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can, but do that for interest, not as an investment.
I think that's good advice. No, like I was saying in the pre-roll, like it's not often I meet people that are kind of like fully dedicated to this Bitcoin cause, and you have a Twitter profile dedicated to it. Do you know anybody else in the area that is deep as we are?
I would say not too many. I did meet up with a guy. So I've been running a few seminars locally, just trying to get the word out about Bitcoin, help people get started if they're interested, or at least learn a little bit more. I think people do need to have multiple touch points hearing about it, and then later on maybe they'll see that, maybe I should get some Bitcoin, that Shaun talked about in 2021. I did meet one other guy who's maybe just as into Bitcoin as me, so far, and as well as one of the guys that I've orange pilled is probably just as into it, although he doesn't go as deep into some of like the podcasts and the reading and whatnot. He kind of lets me do that, and then he can ask me questions. So yeah. I certainly don't come across a whole lot of people who are as orange pilled or as down the rabbit hole as maybe you and I are.
Yeah. We're still a pretty small community down here. So kind of touching back on your libertarian views, and like, how do you feel about Pierre Poilievre supporting Bitcoin and blockchain? Do you see can you foresee his policy being any different than current legislation, or how do you feel in general about what he has said about it?
Good question. Yeah, I was, so I actually went to the Tahinis in London. I convinced my wife that we should go on a fabulous romantic trip to London to Tahinis. And we were there when he bought his shawarma with Bitcoin. And I think that he'd said blockchain too many times that day. And he might have even said crypto, which I try not to do. But since then, I have seen him actually on some videos. Someone said about crypto, and he said, no, I'm all about Bitcoin. If you watch his video with Ali from the Tahini's owner, it was really good when they're in Ali's living room. I think he's probably one of the only politicians I've seen who has an understanding of a correct economic understanding, and that goes a long way. I'm not sure exactly where he would end up with on Bitcoin, but if all he does is just allow people the choice to use it, that's a big thing. And of course, if we could get it to be not taxed as like a capital gain, so people could spend a little bit easier on larger purchases without having to worry about those capital gains taxes, that would be huge. But we'll see. Yeah. First, he's got to win the conservative nomination, and then he's got to win the election, and that's a ways. So he's saying a lot of the right things anyway.
Yeah, definitely a long way to go there. Yeah, and I think I heard something like maybe zero taxes on maybe purchases under $200, or just like so we can micro transact. It's just like using cash. Like we're not gonna pay tax on every little transaction, but for crypto, they expect that from us still. So it doesn't like you're saying, Tahinis, they don't actually accept Bitcoin for payment, right? They just have it on their business reserve. Correct. So we're kind of a ways away, and I'm excited to see kind of what legislation and how it will differ, because like right now it's totally legal in Canada and we can use it freely. But yeah, if we could have something that's going to make it a little bit more usable, that would definitely onboard me. So I already asked you a little bit about current market conditions. I know like you're here for the long haul, but do you think Bitcoin has underperformed this cycle?
I think so. Well, basically, certainly depending on what I expected, but I came in like 5 months before we started like one of the biggest run-ups in history. So to me, it was going to be like, well, it's definitely going to make 100,000 by Christmas. It's definitely going to be 200,000 by today, right? Like, so I probably had what you call some unrealistic expectations. I haven't made it. This is really my first extended bear market, or it will be. I kind of thought I understood what it would be like, but now that you have to really ride it up and ride it down, you've done it a little bit longer, right? So you understand. I'm not going to say I wasn't worried at all as we dropped below 30, below 27, right? Where are we at? We're right around 25 right now. So whether or not it's underperformed, I think a little bit for sure, especially with some of the nation state adoption and things going on. With that, I really did think we'd be a little further ahead, but it's an advantage for people who understand what's going on, and gives them a chance to stack cheap sats. So it's not the end of the world. Yeah,
exactly. I think it was Michael Saylor who said this is an ideal entry point. So like exactly what you said. If you know what's going on, you have that long-term conviction. Excellent time to stack sats, and I tell people, but it's also a time where people don't have a lot of money, and it's some people do, some people don't. Do you have any favorite books in this space or podcasts, or like where do you like to learn more about Bitcoin?
A lot of podcasts. I mean, I am amassing a growing collection of books. I'm not great at reading them. So I love buying them, and then I am slowly working my way through them. I'm just about finished the 7th property. I'm just finishing that up right now. Probably a book that I really recommend is this one here, Why Bitcoin by Tromer Strolite, a Canadian author. It's number one, it's a beautiful book. It's just sort of like a coffee table book. 27 different essays about Bitcoin. I've been reading through it with my 13-year-old son, sort of like once a week, read a chapter or two, just slowly going through. And I don't think you can go through this book without ending up pretty bullish about Bitcoin long term. Okay. And I like it too, because I can leave it on my coffee table, tell people I bought it with Bitcoin, straight from the author. So that's really good. And then podcasts, I probably have 10 or 15 subscribed to, but I mean, I'm always going to listen to Tales from the Crypt, Rabbit Hole Recap, Marty and Matt get a lot of information there. Stefan Livera, Daniel Prince. I listen to a lot of those, as well as a lot of the other big ones too. Whenever I'm driving, it's going to be a podcast, and it's a decent chance it's a Bitcoin podcast.
Yeah, for sure. The 7th property, that's actually going to be my next book. I had Eric Yakes on the show. And I got him to send me an autographed copy as well. And I just finished the book of Satoshi. So it's a compilation of all of Satoshi's writings in the forums and some of the private emails, which definitely very interesting. Man. What else did you do when you're not knee deep in crypto?
When I'm not knee deep in that in Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
That's a good question. I do. I love hanging out with my family and stuff like that. But when I'm not working, chances are a couple nights a week I'm going to head out and do some Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Okay. That's kind of found that about 4 or 5 years ago, I guess, and big fan. I really think that like attaining a BJJ black belt is like the ultimate proof of work. I think almost in the physical, at least in the martial arts world, I would say I'm a ways away from that, but it's a lot of fun. Keeps me active. Helps at my work at the youth jail from time to time. So that's what I do with some of my buddies.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I saw a couple of your pictures on your Instagram there. It looks pretty cool, and something I've been more interested in as I get older.
I highly recommend it to anybody. Find your local club. There's tons of good ones in here in Niagara. Whether you're Welland, Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, great clubs. Yeah, check it out.
Yeah, I'm in pretty central Welland right now. I was in St. Catharines until this past March. Now I'm back in Welland where I'm born and well, no, born in St. Catharines, but raised in Welland here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll have to look into that. I'm gonna open it up for you. If there's any words of wisdom you can give my listeners, or any questions, comments. If not, well, let us know where to follow you.
Sure.
But yeah, open mic.
Yeah. Oh well. For I guess my advice would be to quote the Rabbit Hole Recap guys: stay humble and stack sats. Right. Look into Bitcoin. I would suggest trying to understand economics, and I know you already asked about the books. I'm going to pop this one up here as well. Economics in One Lesson. Not a Bitcoin book at all. In fact, it's almost 100, about 80 years old now. But if you read that book, it's going to really help you understand economics. And I think understanding Austrian economics is going to help you understand why Bitcoin is going to be the money of the future, a fixed supply, the understanding what inflation is and why it's so bad. And I think we're seeing that right now in the economy, that inflation is going to really hurt, and we haven't seen it for some time, since like before I was born, when inflation was really, really bad. So take a look into Bitcoin more and more. Find a good podcast and listen to it. Grab maybe the Seventh Property or the Bitcoin Standard. Check that out, and just figure out an amount of Bitcoin that you can purchase sort of on a regular basis, whether it's every paycheck or once a month, and stack that away. Keep your own keys, right? So don't leave it on the exchange, or not more than $100 or so, and then send it to a wallet that you control. Protect those keys, and tell other people about what you've found out about, right? Tell them about this lifeboat for the sinking ship that is the economy, I think, anyway. So that's my advice. If you're looking to follow me, you can follow me at Shaun Somers on Twitter. You'll probably have a link, but it's Shaun with a U and Somers with a 1M and an O. You'll have to look at it there, Shaun Somers on Twitter, or at ironbank.ca. If you got any questions, or you can ask me there. I got my email address. People who want coaching, I've done a little bit of coaching, getting people set up with a hardware wallet, with just getting started with Bitcoin, as well as just some links to some more information, right? So I'm all about Bitcoin, and I love talking about Bitcoin. So
thank you. And, of course, my title of the podcast is the Halving Report, and, the block, you got a Blockclock behind you. Do you mind telling my listeners, what is the Blockclock and what is it calculating?
Right. So Blockclock is a great product by CoinKite. It's a Canadian company. Actually, really great Bitcoin company. They are also makers of the Cold Card. So if you need to store your Bitcoin securely, you're going to go through CoinKite, get yourself a Cold Card.
Did you just show it? Do you mind showing that again? I think it kind of froze there for a second.
Well,
there it is.
This is an open dime, right? So you can put your Bitcoin right on there, and then I can hand this Bitcoin off, right? So it's a way that you can actually use Bitcoin as a bearer instrument. I actually used it at a local strongman show in Thorold in May. I was one of the sponsors of Canal City Strongest, and I had prizes on open dimes, Bitcoin prizes for the first, second, and third, which is a lot of fun. CoinKite actually hooked me up with the open dimes there. So again, thank you, CoinKite. Big shout out to them. Blockclock that you asked about. It's a clock, and it has like an e-ink display. So if you got a Kindle, it's the same concept, and it will show basically any Bitcoin information you need. Right now, it's showing the Canadian dollar price, $25,287 as we speak. If you watch through the video, you'll see it. I have it flipping between three different things. I also have it at block height, right? We've just set a new all-time high of block height, as we do every 10 minutes or so. And I also have it at Moscow time, right? So it's sats per US dollar, which is around 5,000 these days. I'd like to see it back in 2,300. It's going to change. Yeah. So 49:21 Moscow time. It's not a real time, right? I like back when it's in the 24-hour clock range, which is in the plus $50,000. So, but I think it's fun. They actually are now making a smaller version that's even less expensive. So people are interested in having a cool Bitcoin souvenir or like talking piece in your apartment, or for any podcasts you're on. Check out CoinKite.
Yeah, for sure. I've been looking to get one. I just like you. I just kind of hesitant to pull that trigger when I could stack some more stats, right? So I'm eager to see what they come out with. If it's a bit cheaper, a little bit smaller.
The smaller one is so like the size of your phone, like a little bit like the biggest cell phone you can get is about that big. So it kind of just sits on your desk and would be right in front of you, right, as opposed to being up on your mantle or whatever. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure, man. Okay, so we'll follow Shaun Somers. I'll definitely have your links below in the show notes. Shaun, we got to get together sometime, man. If you're having a Bitcoin meetup, let's do it. We'll have a drink or something, or just get together and chat Bitcoin, man.
For sure, let's do it.
Cool, man. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers.
Thank you all for listening to the Halving Report podcast. Please like and subscribe to the show, share it with a friend, check out our show notes below for more about our guests and some sweet crypto coupons, and we'll see you back next time.